Welcome to the Healing Heart Podcast, where all healing is always a matter of the heart. I'm your host, Donna Campbell, also known as the Mind Whisperer, interviewing guest experts on all matters of healing. Welcome, everybody, back to the Healing Heart Podcast, and I am your host, Donna Campbell, and I have two amazing guests with me today. They are actually a husband and wife team. So Scott and Nancy are life and relationship coaches, and what they do is they help people build an intimate and ultimate relationship with themselves first, so that they can have the relationship in their life that they have always desired. They use their unique method of adventure therapy to help people overcome their self-doubt and fears and tap into their authenticity. So after 2 years of marriage, Scott was involved in an accidental explosion at work, which resulted in brain injury, hearing loss, and vertigo. And so that drastically changed their life and the dynamic of their relationship, causing them to create innovative tools and strategies to keep their relationship thriving and continue to create the life they have dreamed to live. So today they're going to be sharing what they have learned with others so that they can help other people develop unshakable self-love, live their best life, and of course, have amazing relationships. So today, Scott and Nancy continue to build on online courses, speak at corporate events, and host esteem building adventure therapy retreats, which I know I'm going to have to ask a lot of questions around that because I love to go on adventures myself. So they have multiplied their businesses by tenfold in the last year with high profile people such as supermodels, Hollywood actors and actresses, doctors, lawyers, realtors, and entrepreneurs. They have appeared on multiple podcasts and have been featured on The List TV, Authority Magazine, Wonder Magazine, and Tony Robbins recently announced that he'd recommend them as coaches because they live it. And I absolutely love that. So welcome here to the show, Scott and Nancy.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Donna.
Yes. So first, share a little bit about the backstory. I know you went through some traumatic events there, Scott. What were some of the things that you went through that led you to start all of this with couples, relationships, and adventure?
Yeah. So it really started before my accident. I've been running adventure therapy retreats for about 20 years, mostly rock climbing and hiking adventures. And as Nancy and I were coaching separately, we would talk to each other about our clients and their needs and what do you think? I'm working with this person. And we really got to the point where it was like, we should just do this together. Mm-hmm. And then I was on a movie set, and for 30 years, I've worked in film, and we had an accidental explosion. It went off early, basically, and wow. I was about 11 inches from it, from the explosion itself. So the concussion really rocked my brain and ended my film career. And it allowed us, we believe in every trauma that there's a gift. Mm-hmm. And with this trauma, there were many gifts. The trauma part of having to learn how to speak correctly again and walk correctly again was overwhelming, as you may imagine, and utilizing not only the tools and strategies that we've learned from Tony Robbins, but from many other coaches and from our life experiences and the things that we've overcome. And it really led to diving in deep into our relationship and the relationship with ourselves to really overcome that.
Yeah, and to thrive through it, and to, kind of be okay with sharing it, which is what we started to do, right? Scott went from, being on set around like 100 people a day to it was just him and I on a sailboat at the time. So it was just us, kind of in our world. And we started doing Facebook Lives to kind of just talk about it and get out there and kind of share what we were going through. And we got a lot of feedback from people asking, like, how did you get through that? What are you doing? So that kind of helped propel it down that road too, of helping people with what we were going through.
Yes, absolutely. And I can see that. So share with me here a little bit, because I know you guys went through all these events, and then you saw the need within yourselves, and then you saw the need within the different communities that you were in. And how do you take what you learned and transition it for healing for other people?
Well, it's customizable to everybody, right? We all have our own things that we're going through. But when we are going through something and we're looking for someone to help us, we come in as the people to kind of step you outside of what you're seeing, right? To step you outside of your blinders and to kind of step you outside of your comfort zone. So you start to have growth instead of kind of spinning your wheels. And it looks different for everybody. It depends on what they're going through. But people in relationships, we really help them to get into that authentic space within themselves so that they can have that vulnerable, authentic relationship with somebody else.
Yes, absolutely there. So when you talk about them getting into their own authentic space on the inside for healing, what would be your number one tip that you have to really access that inner being for everyone?
The first thing that comes to my mind is change your story and change your life, right? Change that of, I could have easily focused on the limiting beliefs of our doctors,
right?
Stayed on a couch and ate pain pills and sleeping pills and the different things that they wanted to give me. But instead of staying in that story of that limiting belief, it was really about changing the story that I told myself. And that is transferable for your relationships, your trauma, anything that we go through, because we get sort of caught up in the cage of the mind within that story. And then our actions and our choices come from that place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Nancy, were you going to say something there?
Go right ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So when you think about changing your story, because we hear that phrase often, changing your story, change your life, heal your life, all of those things. What were some of the steps that you went through to redefine who you are now in this new context? And what I guess the pathway of getting there? How did you redefine your story?
Yeah, great question. So for me, the key was awareness, right? I had to be aware that I was telling myself the victim story, that I was in that, what we call the cage of the mind, the story. So once I had awareness around it, I could really begin to lay the brickwork for that change, right? And we like to describe it as 1 degree shifts, because as I was going through it, as we were going through it, it couldn't be, there was no like jump to I'm okay, right? Because I had a brain injury. I couldn't speak correctly. I couldn't walk correctly. So it was acknowledging and not resisting that, right? Not using language like it shouldn't be this way, this shouldn't have happened. The sort of limiting vocabulary that we sometimes use within that, whether it's internally or externally. Once I was aware of it and I could begin to just change little bits of that when I caught it, right? I could catch a thought that may have been, I'm never going to get better.
Well, it came to mind. I remember him in that space when, driving was a big thing that got taken from him, right? An independence thing that gets taken. And I remember the frustration of, him saying like, I can't even walk right. How am I ever going to drive? Because the doctors were talking about like future things and it became overwhelming. And it was circling back to not resisting what's going on right now and looking at the baby steps of it, of like, well, when we get to the place of you can walk a straight line, you can walk through the parking lot, you can walk down the street, right? It built over time. And it got to the place where he finally, a couple of years later, could drive a car, but I remember it in that moment. It was that crazy frustration of like, how am I ever going to be in that space? I can't even like do this.
Well, that's the thing, was really becoming aware of that story, and bringing it back to the present moment, bringing it back to the awareness around the language I was using and changing it. And that, little by little, right? Every time I had that thought, every time I had a limiting belief, every time someone else had a limiting belief of what I could or couldn't do, I had to remind myself, right now, I am just trying to take 3 steps. Right now, I'm just trying to put a sentence together.
Yeah.
Right.
And so as I practice that, right, just like a baby, right, like a little kid, a little baby doesn't crawl and then begin to walk, and when they fall down, they're not beating themselves up over that they can't walk and they're never going to be able to do it, right? Or none of us would ever
they're celebrated when they fall. It's like, yes, get up, do it again.
It was really redefining it, giving it for me to be able to do exactly that, right? I took a step and I fell. Awesome, I took a half a step. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do more.
Well, and I guess you touched on was the resisting our reality. Like when I was in that, and all of a sudden you're in that space where your life is turned upside down and it is no longer what it was. You start to have the should-haves, like this shouldn't be happening. This, how could this be happening? Why, when we start in that spiral down, but instead of going there and resisting what is happening, if we embrace it and really focus on the solution, that's what starts to just get you through a little bit each day. But we resist it, we stay in that negative, overwhelmed, pissed off state.
Right. So before we go here to the break, I would like to know, because you guys went through this event together, you've overcame it, you've triumphed. How has that impacted your relationship today, now being together versus 2 separate independent?
Yeah. So I'd say it really has brought us a lot closer, and it could have done the opposite. It kind of gave us the opportunity to either speak up about what we were feeling, shut down. And luckily, because of the kind of tools and strategies we had prior and the different mentors we had, we really chose to, have those tough conversations of, how it felt for the dynamic in our relationship to change, where it went from he was the caretaker, the man of the house, taking care of things, to all of a sudden I was taking care of him and driving him around and doing all the stuff in the house. But sitting there and talking about those conversations about how it made each of us feel instead of assuming how each person felt really, I think, made a big difference. And then that continued as the growth and the healing kept happening, because it was different stages.
Yeah. And I'd like to just touch on what you said about together instead of separate.
Yeah.
We are a couple, right? We're married. We do a lot of things. We run our business together, but there were pieces there that had to be individual, right? I had to find this new identity within myself to be able to recreate, restructure our relationship into something that is more powerful, more beautiful, more vulnerable, more conversational today than it ever had been. But it was really the individual self-work to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, absolutely there. And you can tell, and you can see the both of you together are better, stronger that way than it was before any of those things happened. So there's always a silver lining gift and blessings that come out of all of our situations. All right, you guys are listening to the Healing Heart podcast, and I am your host, Donna Campbell. We are going to take our short break for our sponsor, and we'll be back in just a moment. Get what you always wanted. Abundant life is possible. Transform your lifestyle in just weeks with the most innovative system developed for heart-centered business professionals who seek change today. You are one step away from creating infinite prosperity, happiness, and love. Grab your bonus link now that's in the show notes. All right, welcome back to the Healing Heart podcast. And my guests today are Scott and Nancy. They are life and relationship coaches. And what we've been talking about is a little bit about their backstory, about how they came together in the ultimate relationship, putting themselves first, but also healing past traumas, overcoming doubt, fears, tapping all into your authenticity. And so what I want to talk about here is because you guys have self-building adventure therapy retreats and you host these. I want to know more. So what is an adventure therapy retreat and how do you use that with your clients for healing?
Yeah. So adventure therapy retreats are a way to not only step us out of our comfort zone, but to tie in mindset work to our physiology, right? So what I mean by that is that we can all do the work and change the thoughts and change the story and change our focus, right? We've all heard that. And we can do that as humans. It's not hard. It's a choice. We get to do it. Our body, on the other hand, keeps score. It holds on to all the same traumas and memories that our mind does. So what Nancy and I do on adventure therapy retreats is we take people to places like Costa Rica and we immerse you into a 8-day long coaching and adventure retreat. On that retreat, we're having conversational coaching the whole time and rappelling off of waterfalls, going zip lining or whitewater rafting or rock climbing. Mm-hmm. And what I found was that when you have the opportunity to feel the fear, or that false evidence appearing real to come up while you're standing on a ledge, and you're able to be coached off of that ledge, both figuratively and literally. We then get to embody that with the new neural pathways that your mindset has created. We get to really embody that in our physiology. What that does is when we come home from the retreat and we're back in New York City or California or wherever you live, and life is happening for you, right? But life continues to happen. It gives you not only the mindset to overcome those fears in everyday life, but to really step up and thrive through them with your physiology. So instead of thinking, oh, this is going to be whatever, and it's going to be great, and your body goes, hey, wait a minute, Scott, we're supposed to be depressed right now. We're supposed to be sad. And our body brings that mindset back down into that shrinking, closed-hearted feeling. We can remind ourselves that on that waterfall with that water rushing over us, when we took action, we were able to conquer that. And we get to bring that into everyday life and into our choices, as opposed to making choices from that false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, it really creates long-lasting transformation. You know, that's when he talks about the neural pathways, when we talk about building new habits, if we tie it in with emotion, studies have shown that it happens 10 times faster. So if we're together for 8 days and we're doing that hundreds of times a day, right? Because stepping outside your comfort zone isn't only getting on the back of a horse or going on a hike through a jungle. For some people, it's being vulnerable at the kitchen table and sharing a story or a thought that you had about something. So we're doing it all day on those retreats. So that's the immersion. That's where the change really happens, because it's throughout that whole time, and it really builds that new habit.
I love that you guys have put it together, the adventures with the mindset, because there's an absolute truth in it. Because once you do it and you go through the process, literally, you are never the same again. And I discovered that this last year when I went skydiving, and you're with an instructor because you go tandem the first time. And they tell you on the count of 3, you're diving out the door. And then they get to 2, and the next thing you know, you're already out the door. And that feeling and that sensation there. And every time I see my video, it comes back, and then it opens up like a doorway. And then you start dreaming about skydiving, whereas before you never even had dreams like that. So do you find that part of the case working with your clients with the adventures, that it opens up so much in the mind to receive more things like that?
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
It really removes the fear-based walls that we carry around with us that create those limiting beliefs. If I can't, or like you said, it doesn't even come up because we're so shut to it. So it really removes that and opens up opportunity for so much to come in that you're not even aware of until it starts coming in. So yeah.
Wow.
Well, it really, opening that door, as you put it, is for a lot of folks the first time in a very long time that they're actually in the present moment. Right? True. Because adventure brings us very quickly into that present moment. And as we get to digest that and feel that, that's where that opening happens. That's where we get that that empowering feeling to conquer more and more.
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And you know what? I am totally sold on this. I want to go. I'm an adventure enthusiast and love to go explore. I believe you should live the life you love and love the life you live. And that, for me, includes going out and experiencing new things. So how do we get in touch with you? How do we get to your adventure retreat? Share with us all of that good information.
Absolutely. Yes. So if you go to our website, scottandnancykiesling.com, you can go to our adventure therapy page there, and you can see all about our retreats and our upcoming retreats. And if you go onto Google and just put in Scott and Nancy, you'll get all our Facebook and Instagram and any information about us. So if you have trouble finding our website, that's probably the easiest way to do it. But what we love to offer to the audience as a gift for you guys, because a lot of times we don't know exactly where we're holding back on adventure and play in our life. We have an adventure assessment that we like to give out, and we'll
that's amazing. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so we'll give it to you, Donna, to hand out to your guests. But it'll allow you to really look in and kind of see, where can I become more playful? How can I become more playful in my life?
To build that adventurous mindset.
Yeah.
The adventurous mindset doesn't, like Nancy said earlier, it doesn't have to be in the jungle, hiking around and seeing monkeys, and it can be on your doorstep.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Right in the comfort of your own home. So that's where we want to begin with it. So we'll make sure we get that over to you. But yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with us, is kind of just reach out and start the conversation of where you want to begin.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So for everybody out there, all of the links and everything that Scott and Nancy shared, we're going to go ahead and put all of that in the show notes, including that assessment. So totally take advantage of it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be filling it out as well, because adventure, we need more in our lives. And thank you so much, Scott and Nancy, for being here today with us on the Healing Heart podcast.
Wow, thank you so much for having us.
All right. And for everyone else out there listening, as always, just go create your beautiful day.